Hi everyone, I'm Apollonia Ponti. I am your dating and relationship coach, and I have a special style video for you today. I'm joined by my wonderful and most amazing friend ever. She lives out in LA and her name is Angie Sanchez. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I talk about her a lot because I post a lot of her stories because she's so aligned with a lot of my beliefs, and she's such a beautiful, wonderful woman. And I'm so happy you've joined me today. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. My soul sister.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to introduce you real quick. I just want everybody to know what you do because what you do is so authentic. It's so real and it's so, so amazing. Angie Sanchez is a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. If you don't know anything about that, I encourage you to go to her website, which I'm going to include her links below. She also does have a mindfulness and lifestyle blog, and her blog is called, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I pronounce this wrong, Arxology. Did I get that right?
Archaeology, yeah.
Arxology. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And that is the name of her blog. So I will include all of her links below, especially her YouTube channel, because today we're going to talk about how to attract love, which is such a big question. So if you are a man or a woman that's watching this video, I really encourage you to watch the end because we're going to give you tips on what we as women look for when we are wanting to be in a relationship, what attracts us to a man and what makes us want to commit to you, and what the habits and traits that we look for. And not only are you going to get my perspective now, you're going to get the both of us. So we're going to talk about self-love, how you start attracting the same quality women, how you start vibing and attracting good women, and having your energy start working for you so you can get this quality love and true love that you've been longing for. So thank you, Angie, for being here, and let's get started. How's that sound?
Thank you. Yes, perfect. Let's do
it. Okay, good. So I wanted to start first with just talking about self-love. Like, why do you, and I hear you talk about this so much on your blog, in a lot of your videos and your Instagram posts. You talk a lot about like self-love. And I want to give some of the men that are watching too some clarity around self-love, because I feel like in the feminine world, we've kind of almost mastered this self-love thing. But I was going to say almost, because I tend to neglect it from time to time. But how, what would you say, like, in regards to love? Like, why is self-love so important when it comes to being that masculine man in a relationship?
Yeah, and I think it's really important for men as well, right? So self-love to me, I mean, obviously self-love can have so many different definitions, but to me, it's really knowing our worth, knowing, really having those practices of knowing who you are, knowing who I am as a woman in the world, what I bring to the table, the things that I need to work on as a person in the world, and having compassion for that and not allowing those things to take over my mind or to be reactionary, but more so like have compassion as to where certain triggers come from, learning to just be with myself, learning to just take a step back. Perhaps I have a meditation practice, so perhaps meditating on why certain things trigger me, getting to the root of it, dealing with it myself, like, or looking for professionals or people who I can really trust and rely on. And then going forward in the world with my relationships with my, family or friends or romantic partner, to be the best version of myself that I can bring to the table anywhere that I am. So to me, that is self-love, is just really getting to know myself, really embracing who Angie is in the world, or who anyone is in the world, and having compassion around those things that perhaps need a little bit more of that nurturing.
Right. Yeah. And I hear a lot of times too, especially when breakups happen, for instance, like if someone is calling me and scheduling a coaching session because they've just experienced a breakup. And today I had a coaching session where a man was with a woman for 10 years and he lost his identity in this relationship. Mm-hmm. And after 10 years, this woman cheated on him, and he calls me and he's like, I have no identity. I don't know where to start. Like, she was my identity. Mm-hmm. And that comes back to the practice of self-love. And one of the practices of self-love is what I see a lot, and I speak a lot about men because obviously, I work with
Of course.
my business is generated just from men, and I
Yeah.
love working with them. And I think it's so powerful to work with them because I don't think there's a lot of women in this space that can provide really valuable content to men that they really need. And that's really my passion from the bottom of my heart, as you know. And the biggest thing too that I see, and that's the reason why I say this, is because what men turn to do is they put a lot of guilt and shame on top of guilt and shame. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is like, and that's what we're talking about here in self-love. And what I mean by that, I'm going to give you an example is, let's say that this guy that contacted me today that couldn't find himself and had no identity. In his mind, he's having thoughts, but you're a man, you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be doing this, suck it up. And they don't feel their feelings. And they're putting guilt on top of their feelings of what they're having now, instead of just being compassionate with themselves, sitting with that pain for a little bit and saying, all right, this relationship happened, this breakup, this separation happened because there's a reason behind it. And now is your time to find you.
Yeah.
So I think a big part too of self-love is to have that clarity conversation with yourself constantly. I'm constantly having them.
Forever. Yeah, me too. I mean, and that clarity can be lost easily and just being busy, and not having our routine. So I always say, like, have 3 non-negotiables daily, whether that's reading a book for 15-20 minutes, or writing for 15-20 minutes, or going for a walk in nature by yourself. Just kind of having those 3 non-negotiables that make you you and that fill you up, so that you're always reminded of your purpose and who you are in the world, without other people's ideas and all of those different things that our ego kind of holds on to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I also think too, when it comes to attraction, let's just talk about a little bit about attraction in relationships when it comes to self-love. And general speaking, for me, I would love to share with my audience is that when a man puts himself on a pedestal, which I always call it, but also sees him in a valuable place of, I can offer this woman this much because I love myself so much deeper than anything else, comes from a really good rooted place, and it reflects in a way of confidence at times, what we call it, but also energy, right? That thing where we're just like, I don't know what it is about you, but you just seem like a really good person, or I don't know what it is about you, but you seem really confident. And that's like the energy, right? And it's something that you can't fake. And a lot of people, because of the world that we live in, and I talk about this too, is we're always looking for that quick fix, that pill to take away the pain, or that something like, I get calls all the time and saying, how do I get out of this heartbreak? Tell me how to get out of this feeling. And my answer all the time is, it takes time. You got to sit with this feeling. I can only guide you, but you're the only person that can do it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do in those situations, whether it was a breakup or an argument with a spouse that you're, happy with, is really ask, like, what is this teaching me? What is this bringing to my attention about myself? Where did I let go of my power? And so in that way, when you look at it that way, everything is working in your favor. Everything is working and happening to add a value to the whole of who you are in this lifetime.
Yeah. And I think I posted something on Instagram the other day. I said, relationships, I think something like relationships, I can't remember my own quotes, relationships are lessons for our future relationships, or something like that. I said, darn, I wish I can remember on top of my head. It was so good. But yeah, so, and that's really, I don't think I answered the question before, what really attracts me, what really attracts women is a man that understands who he is. Right. And, especially when you're dealing with a woman that already knows who she is. There's a lot of value when a man does. And if it's something that you want, if you want a valuable woman that will honor you, respect you, and love you for who you are, you will only be able to find that woman when you honor, love, and respect you for who you are.
Exactly.
And that's so, so valuable. And I think that is the number one thing that drew me to, you know, my love of my life and anybody else in my past was always just how much they cared for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like about that? What draws you to a man if, you know, when it comes to just how his whole being is? What is the one thing that sticks out to you when you start dating or
Yeah.
when you were in your relationship, when you got into your relationship?
Um, so it's funny because for me, I felt like there were a lot of things that I had to work on as a woman before I allowed myself to be loved.
I love that.
I Prior to that, I just honestly, I mean, I come from a family of mostly women. There are no men. There are no, I mean, there are dads, but they're like, you know, divorced and there's no men basically. So for me, I always saw this example of women can do it on their own. And that was kind of like my go-to in my 20s. I was like, I don't need a man. Like if there was an argument, I'd be like, I don't need this. I can be on my own. I'm fine. I'm a strong woman. I can figure it out, right? So what I had to do for myself was, even when I found my now partner, I had to learn to accept love and to accept someone else to care for me, because I didn't really know how to do that. I didn't really know how to be vulnerable. I was always like this strong person, you know. It was very tough. And fortunately for me in my relationship, he was very patient with me. And he was, you know, he was so secure in who he is as a person that he understood where I was coming from. He understood like the things that I was going through and or had to break through, those patterns, those chains within my family lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And he was super patient and would, you know, talk me through certain things until I really dove into, again, the me doing the work for myself versus someone else. Because sometimes it's like, you know, for me, I had that stubborn factor where I was like, well, if he's telling me, like, you know, it would be this trigger where it's like, oh, he's wrong. Like, no, you're wrong. And so it trigger like this argument or whatever. But once I learned to do the work myself, because I wanted to be a better person, not only for myself, but for potential family, or to be in a loving relationship, harmonious, loving relationship, it really just came to that acceptance of love. So I could say that I'm always attracted to a confident man, a type A personality. For some reason, I love type A personality, someone who has a schedule, who knows what they want in life. But up until the last few years was when I was able to really receive the love. Yeah.
Love that. I have a question too, because I know this is going to be a question from our viewers because I get it so much in the comments and in coaching sessions.
Yeah.
A lot of times men want to support women or their girlfriend when they're in relationships, and she's quote unquote, I say quote unquote because that's a big, you know, umbrella answer for what it is, but trying to find herself. But in your relationship, just because I know you personally a little bit more, I'm pretty sure this is how it worked out, but in your relationship, you were finding yourself, but you were still available and still loving to your boyfriend, now fiance. And you were still available and loving to your boyfriend. Were you that person, loving, open, and available, but just trying to figure yourself out? Or were you just more of just pushing the relationship away in general?
Um, Gosh, it was definitely me pushing at first, me pushing him away,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess I didn't want a relationship at first. I had that kind of escape of, well, I'll be fine if this doesn't work out.
Mm.
And then I had this moment where I realized how much he meant to me and
What did
how,
he do in that process? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I
yeah,
know this
no,
is like gold
absolutely.
for I know this is
Yeah.
gold for my viewers. So what interrupted you in that process to making that decision? Like did he back away from you, give you your space, give you your time? What did he do?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I just think this is
No,
gold.
it's
He's gonna kill
fine.
me for asking this.
You know what he did? He said, well, if you don't want to do this, then I'll find someone else who will.
Oh, I love this because it's clarified everything I talk about in all my videos. Thank you.
Yes, yes. And I remember sitting on a couch in his living room, and I thought, I was like, oh my God, what if like another woman comes and gets to experience this amazing person? And I had him, here in front of me. And so in that moment, I realized that I really cared for him and I really wanted him to be the person for me in my life.
Mm.
Yeah, so that was that like thought of another person coming in and like playing that role was like, okay, like enough playing games. Let's step up to the plate. Like he's stepping up to the plate. I need to meet him there.
Mm-hmm. And so
Yeah,
because he was really direct, and this is what I tell a lot of men is like, you want to be respectful, but you also need to state your intentions and also be direct and assertive in the right times, right?
100%.
And you just being, okay, I'll let you find yourself could
Mhm.
also be something that you need to do, but also telling the woman, like, coming from a place where my life is not dependent on you as a woman. My life is dependent on me as a man. And in order for me to fulfill my purpose, my being, love myself, I will tell you that I don't know if I'm going to be around. And I have to move on with my life, even though I think you're a great woman, but I don't know what else is next. But I hopefully, and maybe I'll be here. And if you need me, I'm here to support you too. And I think that's like such a powerful thing. And I'm so happy I asked you that question because
Yeah.
I talk about this so much because, man, there's like at least 60% of my comments. And I did a video about this, like what to do when a woman says she needs to find herself, because
Mhm.
relationships are also obstacles that make us grow and
Absolutely.
learn.
Yeah.
And the woman can say, I want to find myself. And then you be assertive and directive and direct with her and
Mhm.
hold yourself in a powerful mind frame of who you are and state your intention, and then willingly walk away to see if she will show up. Because I can guarantee you, if a woman sees a value and is ready for it and wants to not lose the value of what you're providing as a man, she will
Yeah.
do whatever it takes.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. No, yeah. I mean, I love that you're, creating this space for men to, I mean, we need men. I love the masculine. I love like having a man in my life. I think it's one of the most beautiful things
Yeah.
to experience, or masculine energy. Yeah. So the fact that you're saying like step up to, the role, step into the role and really be a rock. Like my fiance is like my rock. He is just God, like he's my armor, my like that person that just will make sure I'm okay, will make sure I'm safe, will make sure like, I I can close my eyes and fall and like I know he'll catch me.
Yep. I totally know. That's the
Yeah.
same thing with my partner. It's like it gets me emotional because I can feel that because I know how that is. And and a lot of guys will ask, like, how does a guy do that if he is not, like, I don't want to become needy, I don't want to become dependent on her, like if I show her too much emotion that I love her and I'm going to support her and I'm going to be secure and I'm going to do all this, like then the attraction's going to go away and it goes to all this. But the
Mm,
thing about this is, yeah, my boyfriend, and I'm sure your fiance says, I love you. And they say all these things and they treat us well and they treat us like princesses, but they also will sit here and say, why would you think that that's okay to say that? And
right.
they challenge us
Yeah.
to grow. And when they challenge us to grow and they hold a foundation that they're secure within herself, makes
Hmm.
us as women, the feminine, feel secure within him. And he provides that safety for us.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
that's why self-love, men, is so, so important, because it's not something you can fake. It's just you being a man that's just authentic, which I really, really, I'm so happy that we talked about that. So last thing before we finish up this video, because I don't want it to go on for too long, because I know this is a long video. Um,
Yeah.
but I want to kind of touch on relationships since we're going into there. So we're talking about like dating, how to show up better and how to attract the right partner by really just loving who you are. Once you really love who you are and comfortable with that, then the partner's quality or whatever you want to call it starts coming. But also when we get into relationships, because I said, you know, relationships are our biggest teachers. Um, let's talk about like triggers in relationships. You mentioned that a little bit earlier on. Um, can you give us an example of like what a trigger is and then also how we can learn from them?
Yeah. So, for example, triggers can be many things, but they're kind of that thing that set off an emotional response in us. And sometimes the response is out of our control. It can be like a stomach pain, like we see something or we hear something and it's like a pain in our stomach, where it's like almost like a punch, right? So it can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be any like reactionary response. This for me, younger, like early on, the one thing was when a man looks at another woman. Like that was one of my biggest triggers. And when I really looked at the root of that trigger, it was a memory of I was probably about 7 years old. And I remember standing in the doorway with my dad. And my dad was like a young dad. God, I was 7. He was probably early 20s, like super young.
Oh, wow.
And my mom and dad had been separated, and I remember needing his attention for something, and he was like, no, he's like, go back inside. He's like, he said, don't call me dad or something like that. And so I looked at what he was looking at, and it was a woman across the street walking. And so I looked at him and I was like, what? Like I kind of connected the two as a little 7-year-old. And I was like, I'm not getting my dad's attention. So for me, like realizing that as an adult was like, whoa, this came from this root, was so empowering for myself, because it wasn't outside of me. It was like something within me that I had to really address and really make peace with. It can be it can be like your boundaries being crossed. You know, we have certain expectations, certain boundaries. And if a boundary is crossed, then that's a trigger. It's like, yo, like you broke the agreement, you know? So it's really good to communicate those things. It's like, what do you expect of a partner? Or like, are you monogamous? You know, like all of those things have to be clear. Otherwise, when those moments do come, because they're going to come, whether you're in a perfect relationship or not, they're going to happen. You're able to maturely talk through them and maturely deal with them, and not react in such a chaotic, emotional way, you know, but really be mature about it.
Exactly. Mature about it is the key. I love that you discussed boundaries too, because a lot of people get into relationships and they think that this is it. I'm good. This is all the work. I did all the work and now I finally have my relationship. But the work starts when you get into the relationship.
Yeah.
And boundaries are so vital. Like my partner and I have boundaries that I know I can't cross, because no matter how much he loves me, he possibly will leave me if I cross those boundaries.
Of course. Same.
And those are healthy boundaries. And a lot of people argue with me on that because they're like, you know, no, if you love someone, you need to stay with them. And I'm not a believer in that. Like loving someone does not mean that you neglect them.
Right.
And neglect doesn't mean leaving. Neglect means, and people get this misconstrued, is neglect is not leaving someone. You're your own being. You're your own person. And when you understand that you're okay alone, your partner also adds the value. But neglect is not by someone leaving. Neglect is by you neglecting yourself first, by not paying attention to you, losing yourself, your identity, whatever it is. And then also too, not being aligned enough to have conversations with your partner to say, this isn't working for me and this is working for me, or not being aligned enough to say, I really am at the point where I might break this boundary. Because you're showing up for the best possible person for you and for your partner. Because if that fails, then there's no relationship, because the standard was set in the beginning.
Yep.
Even to the little, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please go.
And even to the littlest things, you know? So for example, when Gosh, we've been together for a while, but I think within like our first year, maybe like 6 to 8 months in our relationship, we actually had a social media conversation,
Mm-hmm.
like private direct messages, like things
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about it. It's just an open discussion of feelings so we can understand each other more. And I think social media conversations and relationship are so vital because it really stings and hurts relationships too.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. We have a social media, um, well, we talk about everything. Like our everything's on the table. Like we have each other's passwords to everything.
Hmm.
That we're not hiding anything. Like like the phone's there. I mean, I'll walk away from my phone for hours sometimes, and he can, if I ever get a text message that's inappropriate, that I feel is inappropriate, I will call out the person and I would say, this is disrespectful, because my relationship's public. I'm not hiding anything.
Hmm.
But it's almost like that. I wouldn't want my fiance to see this. Like, this is so disrespectful. And why would I engage in something like this? Like, just not even going there, just kind of having that boundary and respecting the agreement from the very beginning.
Exactly. And setting the standard, setting the
Mm-hmm.
tone, and then also knowing the why behind it, right?
Right.
So we can't just deliver and say, I expect you to do this. I expect you to not be on social media after 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is just like you're being my mother, you're being my father. No, it's more about why. Okay, I don't want you to be on social media after 9 p.m. because this is really valuable time with me. I work all day and I work so hard that I look
Mm-hmm.
forward to 9 p.m. It's my favorite time that I can just sit on the couch and watch TV and like eat a snack or something together.
Yeah.
So you always want to give your why. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of times people get lost, and and especially men, because women have a great way of verbalizing things because we think about things over and over and over, and we're more emotionally kind of like, we talk about our feelings more openly and emotionally. But at the same time, I think men do it as well. I've seen plenty of them do it, but sometimes like they have this whole facade of people online or people speaking about, you have to be this certain way to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that interferes with their vulnerability when it's needed in a relationship. And that's why it's so important that I mentioned that, like the why. Like if a
Mm-hmm.
woman is showing up for you and wants to progress in a relationship, it's okay to set boundaries. It's just okay to talk about your values and tell her your why, because this is how you grow a foundation. And a strong woman is going to be attracted to that at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think the why also helps us as women understand the person, understand why they are the way they are or where they're coming from. Because I
Mhm.
think when a boundary is set and there's no explanation, it almost feels like, oh, who does that person think they are? But if there is like a story behind it, it's almost like you become part of that why, you know? And you want to
Exactly.
honor that within that person, because it's like, that's the story behind it. And I support him to rise above or to align on, to be on his side or to be on his team, and then
Exactly.
become a team together. So the why, yeah, you're right. The why is I think the root of those boundaries.
Exactly. And also gives you that partnership, right? Like, wow, I know this and nobody else does.
Yeah.
Gives you that bond. That's what relationships are. It's a bond. It's your sacred space. I
Yeah.
always call that my sacred space. But anyways, all right. So I'm so happy to do this video with you. It was amazing. There was so much great feedback from just not my perspective, but your perspective. And I'm so happy that I got another woman on this channel to kind of share and get some gold nuggets in there. And I love the part of you shared with me about your relationship. And I'm so happy that you gave some men on this channel some feedback about that, because that's a really hot topic, believe it or not.
It was tough to go there, but I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Yeah, to do.
Thank you
Uh,
so much.
you're welcome. I'm so happy, and hopefully we can do this again. So everyone, I will put Angie's links to her YouTube channel, her website, so that you can check out her blog and a lot more about quantum healing hypnosis, which is incredible. I really encourage everyone to look into that, because it's so incredible. If you're a moment in your life where you feel stuck, I encourage you to reach out to her or visit her website and see if you can work with her and get a little bit more educated on what she does. I really, really encourage that. Thank you, Angie, for being here. I really appreciate you. You are my soul sister.
We are.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, I'll see you again soon. And remember, guys, you are always loved. Bye for now.